obviously the film builds to a crescendo after, like, by the end of the second act, which is, I guess, Trinity test, of course. Yeah. And that must be a sequence you're circling in the script. How do we even approach this? What were the conversations revolving around in terms of, from your perspective, in terms of how to capture that short of detonating a bomb on your own?
No, totally. I mean, there's a lot of sequences that you circle around in the script, right? Because
yeah.
as I said, for instance, Chris can put like a tiny little, like 2 lines in a script that describes, for instance, stars being sucked into a black hole, or a chain reaction unfolds itself. You read them, and you of course you automatically have to think, okay, so what is this going to be? What are we going to do here? And as well as the Trinity test, it's very much on script level. It's kind of a description of what people are seeing, and those descriptions, they are also very much derived from witness descriptions of these scientists that saw this for the first time. So it's a very subjective sort of description of the event, and in a way, what was already written on the script level, there's these different stations that all sort of experience this bomb or this explosion in a different way, and we're sort of getting to look over the shoulders of these scientists seeing that, and that sort of subjective point of view. That's something that that Chris was very meticulous about, that this film wanted to feel very subjective. It wanted to sort of experience things the way that people would have experienced it. We wanted to be in people's heads, and we wanted to really be very tight over people's shoulders watching it. Doesn't mean that the stuff that happens in front of the camera is in a way crazy, but then the next step is kind of to take the next step, but take it as a very small little step. We are not sort of magicians, we're all pragmatic people that have to sort of figure things out. So we start meeting and we start figuring things out, but opposed to sort of knowing exactly how to do things, we really go step by step, and we start testing things, and we start rereading the script once more, and then testing, and then seeing a test, and then sort of responding on the test, and then changing things slightly, and by a lot of those small steps, sort of these things start to bloom. I mean, Chris, very early, he listen, he knew we can never do this. We can never reach that skill to do things for real. He also has a sort of a mandate upon himself, saying, I don't want to do things just in CGI and so on. I want to see things for real. I want to figure out physical ways of doing it. So very early, he kind of knew that he would end up in this sort of macro world. We always worked with forged perspective a lot, but forged perspective, but then actually go even smaller and going to a macro world. So Andrew Jackson and Scott Fisher, Andrew Jackson, our visual effects supervisor, Scott Fisher, our special effects supervisor, they straight away they started experimenting a lot with with science experiments, with doing things on a macro level and a micro level, with pieces of molten metal and miniature explosions, or et cetera, and with all these little elements and all that little playing around over months of time, you start piecing together sort of an overall image, and of course we set off some very big explosions,
right?
But everything is sort of interwoven with each other, and sort of piece together to create those very subjective, visions of or witness descriptions of how these things actually would have looked. We looked a lot at archive material, you know, and really picked it to pieces. Like, okay, now we cut to the other camera, and that camera looks like this, but the
Right.
close-up camera really shows that. And how can we do that? Like, for instance, you know, how can we do the shockwave? And you know, very often instead of just thinking, okay, we have to create a shockwave in a desert instead of a lot of explosions, it's like, how can we tell that in a macro level, and how can we then piece that together with that shot that can get very big? So it's, yeah, for me, it's super much like hobbying and engineering and just, you know, constantly telling yourself what we're going to see is going to be the sum of small elements rather than it's that one thing and we just have to put cameras to it and then hope that it's good, you know.
Yeah. And it's sound design, and it's cutting to the actors' reactions, and it's the music and the lack thereof, and that's the marriage. That's what cinema is. That's
a mechanism that Chris has, you know, in my eyes, have become a master of, you know, throughout. Is, you know, cross-cutting in those sequences. You know, he can dissect an action sequence by piecing together all these point of views where things are seen from, and as well in time, you know, the way that time runs through a sequence like that. So that's something that is there on a script level already, and even on paper you read that sort of, you can reach a certain magnitude just by that vehicle alone, you know.